I don't get why people ever thought like, oh, Jake Paul doesn't want to take this fight. I said for the past year and a half, who's on your hit list? Anderson, all these guys. I named him every single time on the hit list. People didn't think I want this fight. I think they maybe think that when I say those hit lists that I'm joking. But time will prove that I will check off everyone on that hit list.
Dana White said that while he's tired of addressing Jake Paul, this is a real one. Because Jake Paul versus Anderson Silva shows that Jake Paul is taking his fight career seriously. But the reality of the situation is, it's very dangerous for him. Because I really can't imagine that he gets past Anderson Silva. You don't just outstrike Anderson Silva. You don't just outbox Anderson Silva, regardless of his age.
Listen, my brother, every single fight have this different energy, and everybody can talk, but when you go inside, you feel the real energy. You have one guy inside the ring ready for kill you, you change your mind. And that's I don't like to talk too much, because I'm not joking. I go to win. I'm not go to pass my hands in the back to my opponent. Say, oh, you good guy. No, I go take your head out, and that's I train you hard.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna knock him out. I'm just too powerful. Like that ass. There's nothing that someone could do in the ring to stop me from knocking them out. I'm too strong, and it's apparent in sparring. And my power is just something crazy to deal with, and I'm mastering it more and more every single day.
If Jake Paul beats Anderson Silva, we should all boycott the rest of his fights until he fights someone that's on his level, or whatever level we deem him to be on. Like you talk all this about MMA fighters, you talk about the UFC, then you pretend that you want to bring fighters up and you want everyone to get paid better, but then you trash everyone every time they fight. And then now we're putting food on your table for you to drag our legends, like older, shorter, smaller, past their prime legends that have spent their entire careers running their bodies into car accidents and then we hold these guys near and dear to our heart.
Anderson is retired, is too old, and this and that. But I continue training every day. I doing the sparring 2 days a week with the young guys, is professional fighters, and I continue prove how much I can do something more and more inside the combat sport.
If Jake Paul wasn't Jake Paul, if he wasn't this YouTube guy, just a boxer, and you see a boxer knock out the former UFC champion, not just the former, but one of the best ever, knock him out with one punch like that, you'd be like, oh man. Because nothing about watching him fight, to me, screams like he's in over his head. Nothing. He looks like a real boxer. He looks like a real boxer. He doesn't look like a guy who's attempting boxing. That's the difference. The feints, the foot movement, the way he lands shots, he fights like a boxer. He doesn't fight like a guy who's trying to box in a celebrity boxing match. I'm saying if it wasn't that big YouTube star and you just saw him as a boxing contender, you'd be like, that dude's got dynamite in his hand.
Yeah, for Jake, I think it's a step up. I think he's taking a gamble here that he thinks Anderson is damaged goods, but he has the reputation. He's an MMA fighter, just like Tyron Woodley was, but we're talking different levels of striking here. He probably thinks he's wiry and has no power. He's going to find out that isn't the case. Anderson Silva, when you look at him, seems kind of wiry and weak and skinny. He's very strong. He's way bigger in person than what you think he is. He takes a shot.
Yeah. And hey, can I go back to that Chavez? Because many people do miss this about Anderson's career. His skills are so good. He's dynamic. He's versatile. But he has a gas tank. People forget about that. You go tell me a fifth round. We'll use MMA. You go tell me a fifth round that Anderson Silva had that he lost against anybody. He comes on strong, and guys like that get credit. These guys that can really push hard. Nobody talks about him in that capacity. I thought he showed that with Chavez.
But yeah, this might be a gamble, because the reason Jake's took this is because of the name value. But he thinks this is the formula that he's had all along. I think Jake thinks that this ticks all those boxes, but this might blow up and backfire in his face.
I don't think Jake Paul is going to make it out of 3 rounds. I mean, that's my opinion, but I think it's going to be a great fight because I know Jake Paul puts in great work. But I'm glad Anderson is actually getting what he wants right now. He deserves it. I respect the guy completely. You know, after that fight was over, coming back home from Florida, I had first class. My wife was supposed to have first class, and Anderson gave his ticket up for my wife to sit next to me. He gave up his first class ticket. That's respectful of the guy, man. I got to give respect to the guy for sure. He's an awesome man.
Yeah, I with the way he's done in the last couple fights because it's something about your morale being high, right? It's something about you fight a little different. It's different things involved for it, and I feel like his last couple fights, he kind of shown that. And he was always nice with his boxing, his timing. So at the end of the day, it's not like an Anderson Silva that's caught at a time where it's like, all right, he's just kind of like washed up. He's at a point in time where he's revitalized. So I think that makes the fight a little bit more interesting.
As long as he continues to fight MMA guys and YouTubers, he's gonna continue to look good and shine. But once he fights a real fighter, a real fighter that can really fight, it's not gonna be that good.
And so if I were to fight Julio César Chávez Jr., everyone would be like, oh, finally he's fighting a former world champion pro boxer. But guess what? Anderson beat the shit out of the dude. So this is definitely the hardest fight.
Like, as his brother, I don't love the fight. Anderson's no joke. And I knew he was on Jake's hit list, but I didn't think it would come so soon. Like, this guy has decades of combat sports experience. Jake has like 4 years. So I thought he'd get a little more time to season himself before he faced one of the greatest combat sports athletes of all time. So as his brother, I'm a little nervous. As someone who's seen what Jake Paul can do time and time again and has doubted him in the past myself and been wrong, I know what he's capable of. I know how this is going to turn out, but it's not going to be an easy fight.
But what Anderson Silva did at his age against the competition that he has fought has outweighed anything that Paul has done. And it all lies in one performance. One performance, and one performance tops everything. The win over Julio César Chávez Jr.
Why are they acting like they're surprised Anderson Silva was doing good? It's like, what do you even think Chávez Jr. is doing in there with Anderson Silva? You know, so I think they'd be stupid if they're trying to count him out at all in this fight. But I also see that Jake Paul could win and do well too.
Anderson was a very exciting fighter, most exciting fighter in UFC that time. No one was like even close, no one. And Anderson, he was like, he doing all this tricky style, like, karate style time. He was one of my favorite fighter to watch.
Now, obviously the UFC cuts my check, and I like Jake Paul. Like, I've been a supporter from day one, but it does seem to me like he really needs that high profile MMA name to really swing the pay-per-view pendulum. I could be wrong, but I do find it interesting. And eventually one of these guys that we in our sport, love to such an extent is going to break through.
I think we're going to finally learn something about Jake Paul and how good he is. I think he's going to really struggle with Anderson and his pressure-based counter-fighting. I hope that Anderson is going into this really motivated.
The fight for me is one thing, it's a war. When you go inside, you go to die or you go to kill. And that's is my mind, that's my mentally. And is my mission is go to win. Mm-hmm. I prepare my body, I train my body for win, and I go win.
I think Jake's determined enough to get the W, but I think there's probably so much he can learn from sharing the ring with him. Like, this is going to aid in his quest to become a world champion boxer, because he's going to learn tricks from Anderson Silva from being in the ring with him that you can only learn from being in the ring with Anderson Silva.